Good day to everyone. Earthy Wise Woman here. It's been a while. I'm sorry for that. Excuse me. Before we get started, I would ask you, with all due respect, to please follow, subscribe to my channel, Earthy Wise Woman. Today, I'm not even sure how to title this, but I know what I do want to talk about. I want to talk about substitution. What do you mean? Well, it's not like a flour recipe where you substitute oil for butter or something like that, but we do, magically speaking, sometimes we make substitutes. Or sometimes we do not properly know the definitions of what we're going to be doing or using and why we should or should not use that item, and when we should or should not use that item. So like I said, this is very convoluted. So when I title this, I have no idea how I'm going to do it. But let me get started with my subject matter. Earlier this week, I had someone order some bend to my will oil. And I do sell that. I do craft that. I craft that quite a lot, but I craft it with a sense of caution because, like all things, some uh, things can be used for very good intention, and other things can be used for selfish intentions. Bend to my will is notoriously used a lot for selfish intentions. Now, I'm going to show you. Here it is. Now, a proper practitioner always covers their bend to my will oil in a red sleeve. Now, a red cloth. I use the sleeve. This is an old sleeve from a shirt that I owned many moons ago. And I remember my grandmother telling me, whenever you craft Bentu my will oil, always cover your oil with red. So I thought, this is a great idea. I'll make a little satchel. So I'm going to show you the oil. This is what bend to my will. I'm going to shake it because most of the ingredients are at the bottom. You can see it. Here you go. You can look at it. I'm not going to tell you all the ingredients. I will tell you that it does have oranges in it. Not oranges as in oranges. I won't give you the proper term, but it's got several very intense ingredients in here, okay? And before you can even use this oil, you have to leave it on your altar for at least 3 months. I'm going to cover it back up because out of respect for my deities and the work that I have done, it should always remain covered and it will be put back on my altar when I'm done. This has been to my will oil. So I craft that. So even though you see this bottle right here covered, there is another bottle currently on my altar, also covered in red. Now, why do I say all that? Let me give you the circumstances of why I say be careful. What is the proper way to use bend to my will oil? Well, let's think of the definition of the word bend. To bend something is to twist it or shape it in a different way than it currently is. Okay? It's going one way, now it's going to go another. With people, that means generally you're bending their will or their choices from one thing to another. Now, in a positive way, generally, we don't want to impose on a person's will. And I am strongly against that. When would I use something like bend to my will oil? Um, One of the things I'll tell you in my past as a parent, I used it on my children. I wanted my daughter to read at least 20 minutes every day to improve her reading. And she didn't see the need of that. She did not want to read. Oh, mom, I don't want to do my homework. I don't want to bend. So I used bend to my will oil to get her to start doing her homework. I used Bend to My Will oil for my daughter. On what I did was I lit a candle, I carved her name into it, and I cleansed the candle first, and I cleansed the candle, carved her name in it, cleansed the candle again, and I coated it in Bend to My Will oil. And then I basically said what I wanted her to do. And what I wanted her to do was finish her homework and do extra studies. That was it. Finish her homework and do extra studies. And I literally lit a candle for my daughter to do this for her entire, um, I would say it was seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade. I did it every week for her to do her homework. By the time she got to the 10th grade, that was a part of her. She just read every day and she did her homework. In fact, she became an avid reader. She still is to this very day, loves to read books. Now, I say that to say this. I am cautious about telling people to use this because I felt that was to her benefit, that she was a better read, a much more educated, much more literate person. I did it for her benefit. At least I felt it was to her benefit. I later did tell her I did this, and she thanked me. But here's the thing: I I made sure it really was to her benefit because um, whether my daughter can read or not, of course, it is. It can be. I can view it as a reflection of myself as a parent, or I can view it as her success in the world. If she's a better reader, of course she's going to be better educated and she'll be more successful in the world, which she is. Okay. So that is when I used Bend to My Will. Another case, I knew a friend of mine who wanted to help her husband do better in rehab. He had been on drugs. He went into rehab. She used Bend to My Will, and it was her will that he was successful in his rehab. And she did the same thing I did, but she enchanted, you will not go back to drugs. You will no longer use any substance. She did that for a year. He has been clean and I guess they say sober as well for drugs. He has been clean and sober for the last 10 years. Boom. So actually, her will became his will. Okay. And those are positive ways to use Bend to My Will oil. Another way to use it is you will not choose men who, for parents, or friends. You see your friend making really bad choices with men. And I would just do this in a general. Okay, in other words, when I say a general casting, don't say you will not get with Freddie May. He's a bad man. You're gonna not get with Freddie. Don't do that. When I say make it general, is you will not get with men who are unemployed. You will not get with men who do not treat you well. You will not be with a man who takes and takes and takes, who is selfish. Okay. In other words, list the negative attributes of a person you don't want this person to be with, not a specific person. I would strongly suggest you don't do that because here's the thing. Even if you say, oh, I don't want him to be with Freddie May. Okay, she won't get with Freddie May. But she'll find Billy Bob over there with the same rotten attributes that Freddie May has, and she'll get with him. So let's make it like she won't get with a bad man at all or a bad woman at all. You see my point? That's why I say don't be specific. This is something that you want to make sure that they are protecting themselves from because unfortunately, sometimes when a person gets with a bad person, they tend to get with a bad time. So you need to bend that will and say, hey, no, 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 we need to get you with people who are more pro survival, people who mean you well, people who would do well with you and for you and raise you up and not bring you down. You understand? So you just want them to not be a bum magnet, so they're not attracted to a bum. And I'm not being funny. This is more common than not, and I'm sure you guys all know that because you've dealt with people who are bum magnets. If they were ever the worst person in the world they could get with, they seem to find those people, which is one of the reasons why bend to my will oil would be good. Now, this is where I also stress to you when it comes to bend to my will oil. Have their best intentions in mind. Their best intentions. In other words, even though it's called bend to my will, you can take a look and don't do it. I'm muttering my words. Do not cast this for the here and now. Remember, you're having to cast this for the future. In other words, you're helping these people get a good foundation in order to make better choices for their future. Okay? Now, here is the selfish way or the bad way that a lot of people have used this oil. And unfortunately, I know people who do it now. And I strongly suggest you do not do this. I have seen it where men or women, both want to get a certain guy or girl, and they cast for that girl or that man, that specific man or that specific girl, and they get them. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, I want to get this man. He's gonna be, honey, he's gonna be my man. She's gonna be my woman, and there ain't nothing they gonna say about it because this is mine, and I'm gonna love them and everything else. So they cast bend to my will. First they get them, and then they put bend to my will to in their idea to keep them. Now here's the thing I need to stress to you. Yeah, you can keep that person with bend to my will. Oh yeah, they'll stay with you. They will hate the hell out of you. Because here's the thing. You can make a person stay with you magically, absolutely. You can make them be in a relationship with you magically, absolutely. You cannot make them love you. That is impossible. You can attract love to you, but you cannot make an individual love you. You can make an individual stay with you, but you cannot make them love you. Love is a free will. Love is a choice. And it's the one choice that above all things deity respects and will not impose on anyone. Even deity lets you love them a free choice. Love is always free choice. You cannot make, force, or impose that on anyone. And here is how this plays usually out. Usually I've told people you can't make a person love them. And they respond to me, Earthy Wise Woman, it's okay. Because I'm gonna treat this person so good, they're gonna fall in love with me. They sure will. They're gonna love me. I'm gonna be everything to them, and they're gonna fall in love with me. So it's all good. And much to their surprise, shock, and anger, and sometimes pain, the person doesn't fall in love with them, but they stay with them. So what does that usually lead to? That usually leads to anguish, pain, hurt, anger, resentment. And why do they feel all these things? This pain, this hurt, this resentment. The resentment comes in when you give and give and give and somebody else is not giving back. Well, you have to remember they don't love you. So they'll stay with you, but they're not going to be giving to you. And if you think that, well, they're going to fall in love with me because I'm doing all of this, so they will fall in love with me. No, they won't. Because it was never their choice to love you. And since it was never their choice, it just doesn't happen that way. And I truly wish we would choose better words than fall in love, because that denotes like a person trips and accidentally, falls. Love can be that way, but when you pressure a person to fall into it, it doesn't happen. It literally is magic, and you can't force that. The resentment comes in when this person is staying with you. They're with you. You got them. And then all of a sudden you see them looking at someone else. And so here you are going to have to cast another spell, so they only have eyes for you. Okay, they only have eyes for you. And they hate you. Because a lot of times they'll be like, I don't even know why I'm with you. They'll say things like this. I feel like I just have to be here and I don't even want to be here. I've heard these comments before. And I have one person who has been with her boyfriend, and it's funny. I don't know why we even have to say the word boyfriend. They've been together for well over 25 years. 25 years, two children, 5 or 6 different affairs he's had on her. And finally he said, yeah, okay, I'll marry you. And she's like, oh, I'm going to get married. And she came to me for a reading to find out how what is successful this marriage would be. I said, oh no, this is going to fail. And she was like, hmm. So she went to another reader. 4 readers later, 4 of us, and we all said this wasn't going to work. She finally decided to ask, why is it that if I marry him, it won't work? And then, I told her, I don't know what the other ones was. I said, because when you're marrying, you're going into a contract and it has to be a free will. So that means you have to basically stop pushing and yeah, okay, he'll marry you and you will be miserable. I said, it's going to be the same way it is now. She was thinking that by marrying him, he would stop cheating on her. I said, well, hell, if he ain't stopped in 25 years, why should he stop now? He's not. Okay. So here's the thing I'm trying to tell you guys. Love, life is not a Hallmark movie. Okay, this is not the romance novels that you read that, you're stuck on a tropical island. He hates you, you hate him, but all of a sudden the clandestine music is playing and the violins are swaying and you fall in love. I wish it was like that because that would be wonderful and romantic, but honestly, it's not. Even two people who become a couple who are both very much in love still have to work on the relationship, still have to work at it, communication. All of this still has to be put in the relationship to be successful. And that's for two people who do love each other. Now, can you imagine getting with a person, bending their will to make them stay with you, and then expecting them to fall in love and for it to be successful? I don't think so, because it's not of their free will. And so here's the thing, why would they work at something they don't really want to be in? They have no motivation to work at it because they don't love you. So there's no motivation. And no, you cannot make a person love you. I don't care what Motown says about, I'm gonna make you love me. Great song. Not gonna happen. If they don't choose it, it isn't gonna happen. And no, you cannot, I can make them choose it. No, you can't. Deity cannot make you love them. What makes you think that you can make another person love you? Don't do that. You would be miserable and they would be miserable. Now, you notice I have gone off on a tangent. Earthy Wet Woman went way off on a tangent when it comes to bend to my will oil in that way. Because more often than not, I've seen it abused in that manner. Now, the title of this is going to be something totally different because what I started this video off on is not how I ended it on. I was not planning on speaking this long on bend to my will oil. But on that note, let me go to another subject that I do want to touch on, and that's hexing powder. I knew someone who wrote me recently who wanted to use hexene powder as protection powder. And hexene powder is not meant to be for protection. Hexene is to put a spell on someone. Now, I, being me, I looked up the word hexene. Why? Because it's in our definitions that we tend to get lost. To hex literally means to perform witchcraft. Okay? That is what it means. To cast a spell. It means it's the literal sense of hexing. However, it, in a verb form is to put a hex on, to affect or, as if by a evil spell, which is a jinx. Okay? A person who practices witchcraft can be a hexer. Okay? So I'm saying all this, I'm just gonna read it all off. Okay. Bewitch, enchant, enscroll, charm. All of these are adjectives for the word hex. So when you are using a hex on a person, you're casting a spell on a person. And per that definition, you could actually say, but we all know that hexing is for something malevolent, not benevolent, malevolent. When something is going to go wrong, you are really is. If I wanted to rename hexing powder, it would be something going to go wrong powder, because that's what you're using it for, to make something go wrong for this person. Okay, or but to keep them away from you, no, it's not going to be for that. But if they've done something wrong and you want something wrong towards you, and you want something wrong to happen to them, yes, use hexing powder. Okay, but this person wanted to use hexing powder as a protection, and I told her no, it's not for protection. It is actually, protection is a more, how do I describe this, a passive energy. We want to be protected. That's passive. It's, in other words, it's, hey, I don't want anything bad to come towards me. I want to make sure I'm safe in my environment. And it's activated if somebody, so it makes a person say, okay, I'm not going to come near that person. I'm not going to come near that person, because you're protected. It's like a coat. A coat is something that shields you from the cold. It's not aggressive. It doesn't have swords coming out of the pockets or thorns coming out. It is to shield you from the cold. Protection powder is the same way. It is to shield you from evil or ill intent coming towards you. Okay? It shields you and protects you from that. But now, if you've already got somebody being aggressive, hexing powder is aggressive. It's, oh, your ass is coming towards me? Fuck you. I'm going to do something. Oh, did I say that word? Okay, forget this. I'm going to be aggressive now. So that's an aggressive form of magic. That you do this, I'm going to knock you out. That is hexing powder. And I do not believe, Earthy Wise Woman does not believe in half jerking hexing powder. If you're going to hex, I remember, don't ever half a hex. If somebody's done wrong and you have done everything you can to try to make this right, and this person is still coming at you like this, drop down hard and heavy. But now do it within the gradient. In other words, if a person pokes you in the pokes you with the finger, don't sock them in the face. If a person throws a pie in your face, don't drop an anvil on their head. Keep it within gradients. But do I use hexing powder? Yes, I do. I sell it, I make it, and I do it the old school way. And I will not give out my recipe. But I know it works. I know it's my grandmother's recipe, and I know it was her grandmother's recipe. So my hexing powder literally goes back about 4 generations, over 100-year-old recipe. Now we had to quirk it. I had to quirk it a little bit because some of those ingredients they don't word them like that no more. So I had to look up the new definitions to the words, which is really kind of quaint. But when do you hex somebody? Like I said, you hex somebody when they have done ill will towards you, and you've done everything you could to resolve it. Then you hex them. If you see somebody who might mean you wrong, but they haven't done anything yet, and you just want to keep your space safe, you use protection powder because that will keep you safe in those situations. But now here's another advice. If you are around somebody like that, get away from them. Because believe me when I say that's toxic energy. I would always, I tell people every day, I do like protection oil because you can't really powder yourself. But when I go on airplanes, when I go on trains or planes or buses or Metrolink, I live in California, we have the Metrolink out here. I always put protection oil on my person, on my aura, on my palms. I do that because there's a lot of yucky energy in those confined spaces. Yucky energy is bad energy. Airports are notoriously bad energy. Even malls are bad energy. But the reason I find that there are certain places that draw more negative energy than others. Airport draws a lot of negative energy because a lot of illegal activities happen in airports. Either people trying to get on the plane without paying, or people trying to bring things on the plane that they legally should not be bringing. A lot of things. Fights happen, people trying to get away from negative things. A lot of bad energy, are, I like to say, chaotic energy, are at airports. Whereas at a mall, people say, well, there's bad energy at a mall. Not as much. There's a lot of greed, avarice, but most people are there trying to have a good time. Most people go to malls to shop, and shopping is very tranquil to some people. Some people, it's very therapeutic. That's why the energy is a little different. Like the energy is different at a football game than it is at a movie theater. At a movie theater, everybody's going there to be entertained, and they're kind of mild and they're kind of calm, and they're basically being lulled to a peaceful state of existence looking at a screen and eating popcorn. When you go to a football game, people are riled up and they're swearing at the opposite team and rah rah sis boom boom kick your butt and blah la la. The energy is different. So that's why I say know when, know how, feel the energy. You'll know the difference. Also, you don't substitute. Don't say, well, I ran out of protection oil. I'll just use this hexing because I know that it'll make people stay away. Yeah, you're hexing everyone around you. I don't think they've done anything to you. So it's not a good idea to be, substituting one for the other because there's no substitute. Hexing is for hexing, which is to put ill intent on a person because they have done ill intent towards you. Okay? Which brings up something else. And protection is to prevent negative energy from coming towards you. Okay? Hexing is like after the fact. Well, this has happened already, so we're going to do something to beat this down and get rid of it. Whereas protection is, well, this has not happened, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen. Okay? Now, the reason this brings up another subject is cursing. People tend to use cursing and hexing interchangeably. Hexing, cursing. There is a difference, okay? Let me see if I can put it in layman's terms. A hex is like sticking a person with a needle. Ouch, that hurts. Ow, okay, I'll leave you alone. Ouch, okay. But a curse, that's hardcore. That's hardcore. A curse is something like a prayer. I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up. I literally did print it out. It's a prayer. It's an invocation of harm, of injury to come upon someone. It's an intention and it is hardcore. Okay, it's one of those things where it leaves a residual energy as it's supposed to. So let's say a house is cursed and you notice, you walk like those haunted houses, we could call them cursed houses. And in some parts of the world, they do call them cursed houses. You know, there was a movie that was, I think it was The Haunting, talking about a house where the house had just been built, fresh. No one had ever lived in it. She literally rode her horse up to the house and was struck by lightning. I mean, the house was born cursed, as they said. A curse is great harm, great misfortune, torture, torment. Um, as you can see, if one is a needle prick, the other would be almost like a stabbing. Seriously. To curse someone is a very serious thing. I'm even going to read the verbs for that one. Uh, implicant, malevolent. It's okay. There's even a few Scottish terms. Uh, ex, extraction. I like that one. Extraction. Um, imprecation. Imprecation. What I'm trying to tell you is this: if you're going to curse somebody, realize this. That's serious. Okay, that's not something to take lightly. As in, when you hex somebody, yeah, that's a one-time poke. But when you curse somebody, that's pretty generational, would be a better word for it. So do not interchangeably use hexing and cursing. If you say, I think I've been cursed, well, yeah, that's heavy duty. I think I've been hexed. That's like, darn, you got like stubbing your toe. It's not pleasant, but it will go away. A curse will have to be lifted. Okay, so they say, I'm gonna lift your a hex. Nah, that'll lift on its own. My suggestion is though, the person who hex you will probably be, if they're continually the hex, yeah, you might have to deal with it. But a curse is something very different. Now, I'm gonna tell you there is an ethical way, shockingly enough, to curse someone. And I'm gonna tell you how it is ethical, an ethical way rather, to curse someone. The ethical way to curse someone is to, number one, let them know that you put a curse on them. That's ethical, so that they are aware of it. Now, whether they believe it or not is up to them. I don't really care one way or the other. I'll let them know that I've cursed them. Number two is to tell them what they need to do to lift the curse. Let them know that you've cursed them. Tell them what they need to lift the curse. And if you say, well, what do they need to do to lift the curse? I don't know. It's your curse. What did you do? What do you feel that, I had, I always say that auto mechanics, I have cursed a couple of auto mechanics in my life. I cursed one because he literally misadjust my back brakes. My brakes had just been fixed by someone else. This person decided to go in and mess with them. He over tightened them. And he intentionally pulled the fuses out of my electrical panel in my car. He pulled the fuses out, completely out. And I thought I needed a new timing belt. And that's what, oh, you need a timing belt, which is very expensive on my car. Well, timing belts are expensive on almost every car. I don't know there of such thing as a cheap one. But he pulled the plugs out to make me believe that intentionally, tightened my brakes, ruined them. And so as a result, I could have gotten into my car was driving completely wrong. And so instead of taking my car back to him, I took my car to someone else and I asked and I told the other person what this man had done. He examined my car from top to bottom and told me everything the guy had done that was bad. Luckily, my back brakes were still under warranty from him, so I got them repaired for free. And I had to get them replaced again because of what that other mechanic had did. And he put the fuses back in my car that had been pulled out and basically had to repair my car completely. And it cost me a great deal of money. I wrote down everything that was wrong with my car that my regular mechanic found that this man had done, and I cursed him. I wrote a letter. I wrote it in bat's blood, and on parchment. I sold a doll. I stuffed the doll with Reaper peppers, and I cursed him. And I told him that he would have to pay me back all the money that I had to spend to repair what he had done to my car back to me. And if he didn't, he would continue to stay cursed. But once he paid me back the money, I didn't want no more, no less, but every penny. And I sent him all the receipts that I had to, all the receipts of everything that I spent to repair what he had damaged, and that he would have to light a white candle for a week. When he did this, when he gave me back the cash money, and when he, after he gave me back the cash money, he could burn the doll completely because I sent him a doll with his name on it. After he burned the doll to light a white candle for 1 week, and the curse would be lifted. Now, did he do it? No. Is he still cursed? Yes. Does he know that he's cursed? Yes. And that's ethical. So there. Anyway, it's getting, I guess it's getting kind of late. I don't know. I could ramble on forever. I am, I'm going to have to think about what I'm going to title this. But once again, like and subscribe. And this is Earthy Wise Woman. I am going to end this video right now. It's a Friday, so I want you guys to have a blessed weekend. We are now currently, when this video is done, it's a waning moon cycle. So if you do cast spells for things to be taken away, like weight and bills. Anyway, all that being said, blessed be.